Now, the biggest battle then has been won for Paul Thomas Anderson's one battle after another. The film crowned Best Picture at the 98th Academy Awards, handing Hollywood's top honour to a comic, multi-generational American saga of political resistance. In all, the film winning 6 Oscars, including also Best Director and Best Supporting Actor for Sean Penn. Amongst the other major winners were Michael B. Jordan for Sinners and the Irish actress Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. Well, first of all, let's get the reaction, shall we, from Paul Thomas Anderson.
Thank you very, very, very much. You make a guy work hard for one of these. I really appreciate it.
Very quick reaction from Ben Thomas Anderson. Well, let's bring in Ben Crowe, our film critic from our Arts 24 show, is joining us here on set. Good to have you with us.
Good morning.
One battle after, I mean, it was sort of the film
one Oscar
everyone
after another,
was
right?
talking about, wasn't it? And yeah, one Oscar after another.
Yeah, well, it was definitely like the film of the year. I mean, One Battle After Another is... it's a blockbuster. It stars Sean Penn and who won the Academy Award.
I love
Leonardo DiCaprio, and Benicio del Toro, who was nominated, though he didn't win. Yeah. It has car chases, it has shootouts, it has movie stars, but it also has a very strong political valence. I mean, it is a film that is adapted from a Thomas Pynchon book called Vineland, but it is completely set in the here and now. It incorporates elements of political resistance, of political agitation, state violence, into a very streamlined action thriller sort of narrative with a very, like you said, a very strong comic bent. And so in that way, it made for a very appealing kind of consensual Best Picture winner, something that, pleases audiences, gives people like the vicarious thrill of Hollywood movies, but also speaking to today with images that really feel like they could have been pulled off the streets of Minnesota.
It's amazing, that wonderful scene with the cars.
Oh my God!
Anyone who, if I do that and you've seen the film,
it's that's one of the reasons why I think the film was so successful. And there's, of course, I should say that in the climax of the film is a car chase set on a stretch of California highway where, in fact, the cars are never almost in the same frame with one another, but the way that the filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson just shoots the road makes it feel like the most. I mean, it sounds like it's a joke, It's a car chase where you just see the road, but it is your heart is in your throat.
It's like being on a roller coaster.
It's being on a roller coaster, and that is a testament to his immense skill as a filmmaker, and that we saw last night with 6 Oscars for his film.
Yeah, it must be seen in a proper big screen cinema, otherwise it just wouldn't work. Other winners as well. Sinners, of course, one of the big ones. Big one for Michael B. Jordan. Let's hear from him.
I stand here because of the people that came before me. Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst those giants, amongst those greats, amongst my ancestors, amongst my guys. Thank you, everybody in this room and everybody at home, for supporting me over my career.
Yeah, great to see the reaction from him. I didn't see this film, but I mean, it's one of those films
you're one of the few and far in between, because it was probably the biggest blockbuster that was awarded last night, actually.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it felt to me like it sort of passed me by, and then all of a sudden it was being nominated for lots of things.
The most nominations. I mean, the film ended up taking home 4 Academy Awards, including Best Actor for Michael B. Jordan, Best Screenplay for the writer and director Ryan Coogler, Best Cinematography, making it the first film shot by a woman to win Best Cinematography, and Best Music. So, I mean, that's a nice haul. But before even going into last night's Academy Awards, it set the record for most Oscar nominations for a single film, for 16 Oscar nominations. So even though it didn't take home the big one, it's already made history, and it's already, proven to be an audience favorite, even though, and you will have the chance to see it, because I think it's going to be, it's probably a return to theaters. It's certainly going to have a long life on home video or whatever the equivalent of that is going forward. It is a blues and blood vampire musical. That sounds already like a lot right there. Okay. Yeah, that sees Michael B. Jordan play twin brothers, bootleggers, who have to fight off vampires in 1930s Mississippi. It's the kind of both Ryan Coogler has in fact worked with Michael B. Jordan on every one of his films. They really came up together, starting with the Sundance winner Fruitvale Station, and then on through the Rocky reboot Creed, and of course the Marvel blockbuster Black Panther. And so last night was almost a culmination for what has become one of the most fruitful and beloved actor-director pairings in contemporary Hollywood. It's also, as we saw in Michael B. Jordan's speech, the consecration of a new generation of Black American talent.
Great to see, great to see. Another film we're going to talk about now, Irish actress winning an Oscar for the first time in the female actor category. Jessie Buckley, this is, for Hamnet. She was very emotional, not surprisingly, as well.
It's Mother's Day in the UK today, so I would like to dedicate this to the beautiful chaos of a mother's heart.
It's great to see that raw emotion, is it? I must admit, I haven't seen this either, but my wife's seen it and said, good film, but very depressing.
Yeah, well, it's funny because last night with the awards for Sinners, and also there's the film called Weapons, which won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. They're both horror films, which is the first time that horror films have won an acting prize in about over 30 years. But I would say that Hamid is the most horrifying film of all because it's all about parental grief. The film is based on a novel by Maggie O'Farrell that reimagines the creative process that led to the, initial staging of Hamlet back in the 17th century, or maybe the late 16th century, although I've got to check my math on that. In any case, it was a while back, and the movie takes the perspective of Shakespeare's wife. In reality, Anne Hathaway, the real Anne Hathaway, not the actress, but in the film, Agnes, played by Jessie Buckley. And the movie really follows her grief, her loneliness, her intense and acute emotional experience to, the nightmare that every parent, never wants to face, and that she goes through and that she enacts and she, brings to vivid life in a way that I think is impossible to leave anybody emotionless just watching her. Watching her suffer, the worst thing you could possibly imagine. And of course, the film leads to the creative process and how that suffering, how that pain ends up creating an essentially eternal piece of art. And so that it's not surprising to see both that performance rewarded and that sort of story of how, human tragedy can lead to sort of like artistic redemption resonating so widely at the Academy Awards.
Good to see her winning as well. Finally, from you, Ben, of course, there's always the big ones that people talk about, but what are the highlights, if you like, of the ceremony, or other things that you were particularly excited about, and of course the lowlights as well?
Well, I think one of it's a good bit of trivia, but for the first time in decades, and only the 6th or 7th time in Academy Award history, there was a tie last night, which just is so rare that it is a statistical anomaly. It was a tie. One of the films that won was actually a French film. It was for Best Short Feature, a film called Two People Exchanging Saliva that was shot here in Paris at the Galerie Lafayette, that has gone on a really beautiful track, winning prizes for the past 2 years, and now culminating, with a shared Oscar that is going to lead to a feature adaptation. So it was nice to see these two filmmakers that really didn't at all come from the film world. They just had a very good idea and pursued that idea to its end, ending up on the Oscar stage, and they are from Paris. And so maybe when they come back, if you see them at Galerie Lafayette where they shot the movie, we congratulate them. So that was definitely a highlight. I think a low light for me personally, and certainly for Timothée Chalamet, was the fact that his film Marty Supreme ended up with 0 Oscar wins for 9 nominations.
It's a great film. I loved it.
It was my film of the year. I mean,
okay.
I'm this. The film still stands tall, and that's what counts. But I think there was a case of fact kind of replicating fiction. Marty Supreme, the film itself is about a young man who is undeniably gifted as a ping pong player, but whose sort of cockiness and arrogance gets in the way of his own sort of innate talent. And that's sort of what happened with the wider campaign around Marty Supreme. Timothée Chalamet went on a publicity blitz. He was just omnipresent for the past 6 months. And in the end, that had a very positive effect on the film. Marty Supreme has done extraordinarily well at the box office in the United States and in France, really internationally, which is saying a lot for a film about 1950s ping pong. It's not an easy sell, and he sold the heck out of it. But he also kind of soured, himself in the eyes of the voting members of the Academy. And I think, look, in the culture itself, I think that his omnipresence in the media and in his own sort of like swagger and braggadocio had a kind of deleterious effect.
Perhaps he'll step back a little bit.
Yeah, not so long, because he has the new Dune movie coming out in
maybe not
at the end of the year. But I think we probably won't see much more of Timothée Chalamet before he hits the circuit again for Dune in 6 months' time.